Do not search for the terms discussed in this video on Google or elsewhere, as you could be committing a crime. The findings have been reported to authorities and the research supervised by legal counsel. No illegal imagery is shown. Do not contact or harass anyone mentioned. Attempts to unjustifiably remove this video will result in a legal dispute.
So one of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop and get it to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad.
I'm fully aware this topic has been covered ad nauseum, but parts of it have been covered terribly, and the aspects covered well have been deleted. But more importantly, while researching, I discovered something new that's never been reported by anyone.
Dinner with American celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain. ABC's Bob Woodruff tonight with how that meal came together.
Initially, this video was structured in a way that debunked the more exaggerated claims from Pizzagators and QAnon obsessives, while also shining a light on the facts of aristocratic pedophilia rings. If you think this has only occurred in the Catholic Church, I encourage you to read the Dutroux dossiers and the recent findings from an inquiry into former British MPs who were freely able to sexually abuse children for decades. But I trashed all that as soon as I found what I found. So instead, I'm just going to show you what I discovered while vetting a now infamous yet indecipherable man who in 2012 was named by GQ magazine as one of the 50 most powerful people in Washington, D.C. James Alefantis is an avid art collector, prolific fundraiser, owner of multiple establishments including Comet Ping Pong, and was personally thanked by Hillary Clinton for what she called his extraordinary talent during her Cooking with Fratelli Podesta fundraiser. He is pictured here with Tony Podesta, who celebrates his birthday with Alefantis almost every year. His previous boyfriend was founder of Media Matters, David Brock. And with the Federal Election Commission showing his multiple donations for Pete Buttigieg, it's apparent that Alefantis' influence among the DC establishment remains strong. But why was anyone suspicious of him in the first place? More specifically, why did anyone equate him with something as monstrous as pedophilia? One reason surrounds the rhetoric of several bands who often performed at Comet Ping Pong. This video shows Amanda Kleinman, keyboardist for a group called Heavy Breathing. In a separate venue, some in the audience appeared to insinuate a person's preference for pedophilia.
He likes the world sounds. Tamales.
And little boys. And children.
I think I was his manager.
No.
We all have preferences.
Another group is DC punk band Loud Boys, who we'll see again later. But for the sake of time, we'll end with sex stains. In a 2007 FBI bulletin, one of the symbols with which predators identified each other with was a blue spiral-shaped triangle wrapping around itself clockwise. The symbol was so prominent, it was etched into coins and rings. This music video is from the Sex Stains. Their promotional posters said they were for, quote, all ages. According to Alefantis, Comet Ping Pong is a family restaurant with a back room designated for children's birthdays.
This is the kids' party room in the back. Birthday parties.
Another reason some were suspicious of Alefantis surrounds his close relationship with Tony Podesta, a former super lobbyist who's had a lifetime friendship with convicted pedophile Dennis Hastert. Additionally, Tony's art collection. Now, any of these works, on its own, could merely be employing theatrical strategies to inspire insight. But it's when they're all collected by one person that it begins to say more about the collector than the artist's intent. Among those artists who made up Tony's collection included Maria Marshall, Margie Geerlings, Patricia Piccinini, Marina Abramovic,
I like to tell you a story, how we in Balkan killed the rats.
Kim Noble, Elephantis' previous Instagram profile picture is of Antinius, a Greek emperor whose influence reemerged in the early 2000s, forming a modern cult that attracted a subculture of LGBT polytheists who worshipped Antinius as a deity. Historian and author Lambert Royston writes, the sculptures of Antinius remain one of the most elevated and ideal monuments to pederastic love of the whole ancient world. Dictionary.com defines pederasty as, quote, sexual relations between two males, especially when one of them is a minor. Whether or not these are good reasons to become suspicious is up to you. Either way, it's for those reasons, and because James Alefantis has no children. Some question why he had so many kids on his Instagram. According to James, he took all the images of kids and infants from other Facebook pages, and from family and friends whom he says haven't come forward for fear of retribution. Now, I'm simply going to show you some of those images and give context when necessary. I'm not, however, going to apply sinister interpretations to hashtags, which might seem out of place. If your damning case against James Alefantis includes references to the Urban Dictionary and arguments for why he might be using them, you failed. If there really is something here, it should reveal itself without argument. Alefantis said that this is his goddaughter, with her arms taped to a table. Here's a baby in an art gallery, another baby. Now, some of these are obviously the same newborn, it appears. But this is a baby doll, and in this image there's two babies. I had to censor this because it shows a flat-chested female whose age is ambiguous. Notice that it's liked by Pandahead Morgan, a name found in dozens of James' posts, who is very important, and we'll get to later. Here's an image of Alefantis' friend Scott Cummings holding a toddler with the hashtag chickenlover. In 2010, the website Things That Are Rectangles interviewed Scott Cummings about his privately owned business in Portland, Oregon, called Portland Natural Casket Company. During the interview, Mr. Cummings said, "When I was a child, my mother taught classes on death and dying. She would often talk to me about how death is an important part of life and how different cultures have different rituals and burial rites." The interviewer stated, even the tat on his wrist is death-related. He snapped a photo of it. It's a body hanging. Alefantis uploaded this picture of a guy in a panda mask. Here are many other images of pandas with the hashtag #ComePanda. One of his tags is Pandahead Magazine, which used to be run by a small team of DC bloggers, who also made this video, described by MakeZine.com as a perfectly creepy panda cult film called Cult Panda, but with the U spelled with a V. Here James commented murder. Another user working on my night cheese, who I'll refer to as WC, commented kill room. WC owned a workshop in the industrial complex pictured here called the Pajama Factory, where he, similar to Mr. Cummings, also built coffins, many of which were child size. WC can be found commenting here to another Instagram user, J. Blair Smith, who uploaded this image commenting, "My favorite pedo." J. Blair Smith uploaded this drawing of a woman being hanged, and what appears to be a baby statue that's been burnt. User Joshua Ryan V posted these while at Comet Ping Pong. He also played in a low-budget independent film called Kill Dolly Kill.
Kill them, Benji. Kill them.
This is Miss Summercamp's Instagram. James Alefantis commented sex. Miss Summercamp also posted this picture of a little girl holding a watermelon with the end of a tagline saying priceless. He said, quote, "Priceless isn't the word most people use upon tasting me." A user below named Barrett C responded. He posted on his Instagram a picture of a baby changing station with the C etched out saying, "Let's hang a baby." He also posted an apparent text message saying, "I put my baby in a slow cooker, it's been burning all day." And in this image uploaded by Barrett, one of the commenters is Pizza Fucking Party, who I'll refer to as PFP. PFP uploaded this image of a group of young children picking up either fake or real condoms, fake gold coins, and according to PFP's comment, little vials of alcohol. He also uploaded a bull-like meme on a pentagram, a pizza cut into a pentagram, and this photo of him or someone else in front of a van with a logo that says Baby Doll Pizza. As it turns out, the logo is from an actual restaurant named Baby Doll Pizza in Portland, Oregon, the same city where a man named Michael Whalen used to live, who alleges to be a witness to illegal activity there, claiming the owners of Voodoo Donuts are trafficking children.
As to why Voodoo Donuts and why Portland, Oregon, it's because my question is, why are they abusing kids? Then I see kids being brought into the back. Then I'm asking, who are these kids? Who are their parents? And that immediately drew attention onto me. So when I'm asking why there are adult males and females taking children into the back, when you're confronted with these type of people, other survivors will know what I mean when I say that they flaunt this. They are proud of this. They feel protected in this, and they feel untouchable in this.
Sonic Delights of Voodoo Donut.
Okay, now that we've outlined the context, here's what I found. In this image from James, he references pickles and tags a user named Gordy's Pickle Jar. Together they seem to be enjoying a pickle-related inside joke. It turns out Gordy's Pickle Jar is a real establishment in Washington, D.C. that makes cocktail brines, Bloody Mary mixes, and other related spreads. Their Instagram shows them at Comet Ping Pong. And here are both owners, Sarah Gordon and Sheila Fain. On their Instagram is a picture of President Obama and Anthony Bourdain eating in a modest Vietnamese restaurant in 2016.
I mean, if you have an important state function after, you might not want to go do that.
I'm going with this thing. You know, we're going to do what's appropriate.
Celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain shooting for his TV series. It was a low-key end to an historic day, with the U.S. lifting that decades-old arms embargo on Vietnam.
Now, David, the president's trip has also brought very good news to American giant Boeing, which signed an $11 billion order today to deliver 100 jetliners to Vietnam.
The red words behind them are Vietnamese for not smoking. Either way, after finding that out, I decided to type the words into Google. This video belongs to a massive YouTube channel. With almost all videos showing Vietnamese children and a BH Kids logo. Now, I immediately contacted my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer, and he put me in contact with someone who advised me how to legally research this, where to report the findings, and how to ethically present it. So, upon clicking on one of these images, I discovered that the term BH or BH Kids leads to a plethora of websites showing children modeling underwear, and in several instances showing young girls posing in an indecent manner with the top half of their body exposed. Surprisingly, as you just saw, some of these illicit images showing naked children were suggested to me from Google. One of the illicit websites Google suggested was Liska.com, which is arguably the biggest lingerie company in Europe. It's important to understand that Liska doesn't market to children. Their YouTube channel, fashion shows, and catalogs show only adults. When typing Liska into Google, the images show only adults. The same goes for their website, where not a single image of a child can be found. But if that's true, how was I suggested this image of a naked girl from Liska.com? The answer lies in the cryptic use of BH Kids. For example, if I simply go to Liska.com by normally typing in the domain name, the illicit images are nowhere to be found. The kids' swimwear section is as it should be, meaning they only show the swimsuits and not the children modeling them. But when I type BH Kids into Google, in the Images tab, the same Liska website pulls up. But this time, it shows the naked girl. Here's the crucial point. The steps listed to find this illicit image is home, outlet, kids, Kim, swimwear. But if you go to the site by typing in the domain name, the step required to be able to see that image is missing. This step, Kim, doesn't exist. So as it pertains to these sites, the term BH or BH Kids acts as a code for child predators, serving as a kind of key which can activate hidden links that were not otherwise accessible when visiting the site normally. Therefore, the associations between BH Kids, and pedophilic content are clear. Although it's speculation, other potential uses of the term could include Bad Baby, a sexually explicit minor whose stage name is spelled with the BH.
White J's, white Porsche, white wrist, white horse.
One must be careful, however, not to apply malicious intent to every organization that happens to use the term, like B&H Photo, for instance, whose website functions in no way like the websites in question.
Ева Аракчеева. Ева, расскажи.
На свет вытяни. Так подкручу.
In 1884 and 1994, she worked on a series Immediate Family, bare-chested with arms crossed.
Вдох, выдох, расслабь.
And I want to make you feel beautiful.
Let me tell you how I think we should proceed.
As the New York Times lose their minds over the quote alt-right rabbit hole, they seem to have overlooked an arguably deeper flaw within Google's algorithms. The same goes for YouTube, who is owned by Google. Somehow, I was able to find this insidious code from this image. An image that was taken during an event where our country was opening up travel to and from Vietnam. An image of a man whose suicide would require another video, and posted from two women intimately connected with James Alefantis. Now, I also discovered something else.
If I simply take an isolated photograph of my In-N-Out burger sitting on a table, an anonymous In-N-Out burger, I will get like 50,000 likes in 9 minutes.
Gordy's Pickle Jar uploaded this image of a girl holding an In-N-Out burger and their brine for flavoring alcohol. They pinned two In-N-Out burgers, one that led to the real restaurant, showing nothing but family-friendly content. The other tag led to this page, with only one post and just over 1,000 followers, so I checked the tags. The vast majority of images are of women from adult modeling accounts, with many being sexually explicit. One video shows intercourse, but overall it's model after model after model after model, all either holding an In-N-Out burger or posing in front of the restaurant, hence the hashtag. But as seen before, they aren't tagging the actual burger place, but instead hashtag in_and_out_burger. It's apparent that hashtags like model or modeling are oversaturated with talent. If, however, an aspiring model can get cued into a set of specific hashtags, they can increase their chances of getting noticed by scouts who monitor those pages. For example, this model's use of the hashtag enabled her to be seen by 2 talent scouts. This model was noticed by a fashion company. This model flat out asked, okay, who's going to sponsor me? One wonders if the term in and out, in this case, is being used as a sexual innuendo, and these women aren't simply advertising themselves to scouts, but knowingly participating in prostitution. This is highly speculative, and even if it was true, what these adults do on their own time isn't the problem. The problem is, why are videos like these on here? This organization is called Crazy Pants, a kids' clothing company that also participates in kid pageants. In 2018, TechCrunch ran a story exposing WhatsApp's child abuse problem. A spokesperson claimed the abbreviation CP was a prominent indicator of these groups. Stores like Crazy Pants should be fully aware their events draw in predators and take precautions that can deter them. If nothing else, their parents should be informed that Crazy Pants' website has a section called CP for Guys and is uploading their kids' photo shoots to an Instagram page filled with explicit adult models who appear to be advertising themselves to a specific set of individuals. But most, if not all, of these children's pages are operated by their parents. They're the ones who respond to the comments from independent photographers and fashion shops urging to DM them, saying, make sure you say, so-and-so sent you. Gordy's Pickle Jar shows multiple images of children, which doesn't mean anything other than that. But once again, some of the comments are insane. Here, a user hashtags edible children, which obviously leads to a tiny page, given how deviant the term is. The same user comments on this image, I want you to do a whole Foodie and the Beast show about edible children and various ways to prepare and eat the children in our lives. Gordy's Pickle Jar also has this image of a young girl eating a pickle. They tagged 3 people, one of whom is Panda Head Morgan. The same person found on several posts from James Alefantis and seen here in the Panda Cult film. Her name is Morgan Hungerford West, known for her, quote, problem-solving skills, and the founder of Creative DC, a hashtag related to events surrounding the DC area. Morgan responded to a question about the hashtag, saying, quote, we like to think of it as a resource and also an access point. She's global brand director for Line Hotels for the Sidel Group, which are a string of boutique destinations that transform already existing infrastructure into modern hotels. The founder is Andrew Zobler, whose co-founder and longtime friend before they recently sued each other was Ron Burkle, a billionaire lobbyist whose name can be found inside Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book and on Epstein's private jet log.
I realize what I am. I'm very comfortable in my own skin.
Burkle was close friends with Michael Jackson and counseled the pop star during his first child abuse trial. Referred to by the New York Times as Bill Clinton's bachelor buddy, both Ron Burkle and Bill Clinton accompanied each other several times on Epstein's Lolita Express.
On almost every trip that I did go on, there were young girls around.
And according to sworn statements from New York Post columnist Jared Stern, Ron Burkle and Bill Clinton had sex with minors. Judge Walter B. Tolub dismissed the accusations from Stern, dropping all charges against Burkle and Clinton. Judge Tolub is the same judge who dismissed another sexual abuse case in 2008, ruling in favor of Jeffrey Epstein. This is a picture of Morgan's front door, 666 Pizza Coffins. Her boyfriend, Mitchell West, works for a company that monitors political ads and used to be the bassist for DC punk band Loud Boys. His Instagram shows, among other things, the owners of Gordy's Pickle Jar, the whole group together, Satan is real, more pentagrams, and 3 visitor passes for the neonatal intensive care unit in Washington, D.C., which houses premature infants who are sick or in critical condition. The difficulty in navigating topics like these is knowing whether I'm onto something significant or deluding myself. In the case of BH Kids, however, in the exploitative images that surround it, its sinister function is clear. But are Morgan and Mitchell West's cultic nods to Satan indicative of malevolence, or something far more benign? Additionally, how do you perceive James Alefantis and his friends, and the models, and the hashtags, and the images? How do you see it? After thinking for a while on how to best disseminate the information I've received, I've settled on dropping this particular discovery in its own shorter video.
The problem now is that people now know that I am interested in lost glove photos.
And the rest of the leads and new testimonies will be in part 3.
And then they made each little boy in turn come up and stab him.
I'm doing this because I consider this finding a bit more time sensitive, and I've already received veiled threats and attempts to hack my social media. I knew I might receive some trolls when giving out an email and asking for information, which on one hand has proven remarkably useful. But I wasn't prepared for how sophisticated some of these phishing attempts would be. While some are, of course, benign spam attempts that we all get, others seem designed solely to intimidate, like trying to reset my Twitter password, or calling my phone but not saying anything. Among the threats I've received was this one. Quote, "You have no idea what you are getting into here, or what kind of danger you are in. Think enemy of the state meets arrival. Stay far away from," and then it shows my location. Let's assume for a second that this person's not a troll, and they really do know something I don't. Well then, what is it exactly that I'm getting into here? What is it that I'm in danger of?
On looking into it, it appeared that this girl was one of many.
A former Scotland Yard detective, John Wedger, was part of a small team investigating sex abuse allegations in London.
We had dozens of young kids aging from 9 to 14 years old.
But when Officer Wedger, quote, dug too deep, he was given a similar warning.
I was brought before someone who is now a very, very high-ranked officer in the UK indeed. And he said, "You will be thrown to the wolves. You have no idea who and what you are dealing with." He said, "I'm warning you now, you must back away."
Although it can be disconcerting, and at times I do wonder if what I'm doing here is even worth it. As of now, I have no intention of stopping. Now, the new information you're about to see ostensibly involves Tom Hanks.
First of all, it looks like an ad for Chevy.
Whether or not Hanks is aware of any of this remains to be seen. Nonetheless, some of the images he's posted to his social media are not only relevant to the findings, it's how they were discovered. The person who provided this tip wishes to remain anonymous under the alias Veritas Fatior. But why Tom Hanks? An actor I've loved since I was a kid. A man whose films are consistently inspirational, influential, and iconic. This is true. But it's also true that recently, a new range of theories have begun to emerge, showing a different side to the Hollywood actor. Many of the claims are unfounded and nonsensical. I'm not saying they're all bullshit, but as I did with part 1, no theories will be given, just information and context. So one reason some have recently changed their perspective of Hanks surrounds the testimony of a former Hollywood actor, Isaac Kappy.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about Tom Hanks either, who is also a pedophile. Tom Hanks, folks, is a pedophile. I'm sorry if this is the kind of bursting your bubble, all this information is new.
Isaac claimed that within Hollywood, a high society is involved in child trafficking.
Yeah, Tom Hanks. Tom fucking Hanks, guys. Pedophile. Called out, no response.
Information he claimed was privy to because of his time spent among Hollywood's gentility.
I'm in their source code. These people are being taken up north to San Francisco, some sort of R&D project for a new Terminator.
And this, make no mistake, this is a cult. There is a widespread cult that is worldwide. And by the way, the proof is in the fucking pudding. If I'm lying, sue me. Sue me. Great. Let's go to court. Let's have discovery.
As Kappy's following grew, he took measures to ensure his safety, one of which he alleged included a, quote, dead man's switch.
What does that do? It means they can't kill me, which is good because I like to stay alive. A dead man's switch is basically it's like if you die, then like stuff happens, okay? Like information goes out. They can try to kill me. You know, good luck with that.
Many expected Kappy to continue expanding upon his testimony. Instead, he uploaded one of his final videos.
My anger at these people, my anger consumed me. Did I lie about Seth Green? No, Seth Green's a pedophile. Am I afraid of something? Well, I should be, because bad things are coming my way.
3 days later, Kappy was found dead in what local authorities assert was a suicide. It's worth noting that Kappy was asked here if he currently felt suicidal.
I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal.
Purportedly, Kappy jumped from that bridge and was hit by a truck. Soon after, a controversial video began making its rounds on the internet.
You promised you wouldn't hurt my mom and dad if I came back, right?
Right. I won't hurt you either.
A woman named Sarah Ruth Ashcraft accused Tom Hanks of purchasing her from her father for sex. She claims to have been abused most of her childhood.
I depersonalize a lot of this because it's really ugly, tough stuff. I'm glad something's being done about it now. Because nobody should have to look back on their childhood memories and realize that the things that they thought were just meaningless and innocent were anything but that. Nobody should have to discover these things about their own life.
I noticed you have this obsession on Instagram
with lost gloves.
Well, it's lost objects, but it started with lost gloves. And first of all, there's a story behind them all. What happened? What happened to its mate? How did this glove get lost? Is someone going to keep the other glove at home on the off chance that they're going to pair it up? It's a little bit of, Romeo and Juliet kind of quality to it.
You're saying there's a little bit of a hint of sadness to these. It's like it's telling you a tale, but you don't know what the tale is.
They're all bittersweet city adventures.
Let's take a look at some of these. I want to put this up. This is one you took, and
yeah. Now
tell me what's going on here. Why is this so evocative to you?
Well, first of all, I don't touch them. I just see them and I photograph them. So I have never.
You don't want your DNA on those.
Well, it could be a crime scene. And let's not give the cops a break.
Notice that in this image, we see another glove, but this time, we also see letters. Look closely and spell them out for yourself. What does the top row spell? S-R-C. What does the bottom row spell? U-S-A. Here's what happens when you run a search for SRC USA on DuckDuckGo. It shows nothing out of the ordinary. The same goes for the Images tab. And the same also goes for Google. In the trailer update video I uploaded prior, I provided tips for independent researchers to use. Among those was to utilize multiple search engines, including the Russian search engine Yandex. It's important to understand that just like Google or Bing, Yandex does not show child pornography, and is not to be confused with a dark web search engine, many of which lead to an array of CP, no matter what you type in. In Part 3, we'll attempt to expose an apparent distributor who operates within these networks. Back to Yandex. To further emphasize how similar Yandex is to Google, here are some control searches. When typing kids, the images are as they should be. The same goes for any other mixture of SRC. So if we search RCS, RCS USA, and some others, all of them are fine. But what happens if we type in SRC USA? In Part 1, I showed how the term BH Kids was almost certainly a pedophile code, as it revealed indecent images of children on Google, some of which cryptically, but there are some who claimed I was making a mistake, pointing to the German use of BH, which means bra. This definitely helps to explain why, quote, bra was found next to many of the images. But it does not explain the BH Kids logo on the Vietnamese YouTube channel, where I found the term in the first place. Furthermore, one of the most suggestive images BH Kids pulled up was of this young girl, who I've chosen to pixelate, given that the image has already been printed onto a foreign newspaper. Now, if Google's suggestion of this image only had to do with the German word for bra typed next to kids, and not potentially indicative of a larger operation, then how do you explain this?
All day yesterday doing a shoot with the Pizza Slime blog. Is that fun for you? The term SRC, which is typically short for source or search,
appears to act, in this case, as a kind of algorithmic glue for online predators on Yandex. These images are then collected and shared on Yandex profiles. Disturbing amounts of illegal child exploitation imagery are currently being cataloged and shared by predators on Russia's Yandex search engine. Terms like SRC USA, SRC Kids, SRC Boys all surfaced images of children in varying degrees of dress, many with sexually explicit tags and comments. The Yandex child pornography problem exemplifies the failure of big tech to effectively resolve an issue which could easily be fixed by blocking or cleaning up those queries. It's entirely possible that Tom Hanks has no connection to the term, but it would have been misleading, even dishonest, if I didn't include that this image was how the apparent code was discovered. Additionally, because it included Tom Hanks, leaving out the testimonies of Isaac and Sarah would have also left out information we felt was pertinent. And it's up to you to decide the authenticity of their claims. But what I find most bizarre is that apparently, in general, Yandex knows this is a problem. Whether or not they're aware of the specifics in this documentary remains to be seen. But it does appear they're knowledgeable of their engine's failure to eliminate images showing child sexual abuse. Which begs the question, why aren't they fixing it?
I was an information technology specialist, MLS code 25 Bravo in the U.S. Army, and for a few years I was stationed in the region beneath Pacific Command. During this time, my primary job was monitoring network traffic on what's known as SIPRNet, or the network for the DoD that is responsible for transmitting any level of classified information. So classified, secret, top secret that was compartmentalized information. And that was the network where I, either early 2019 or late 2018, started to see a massive spike in abnormal communications between authorized users within Pacific Command to authorized users with IP addresses that I could recognize 100% of the time as belonging to Pentagon employees, either uniformed contractors, civilian employees, intelligence officials, something of that nature. And a lot of these communications were related to picking up underage prostitutes. In particular, around certain parts of Tokyo, as well as the Philippines and certain regions in South Korea. It's never once on an unclassified network. Emails, communications, live chats regarding trading child pornography, engaging in prostitution. And generally speaking, the receiving end was an IP that was attached to the Pentagon in some way, shape, or form. I forwarded this information up to my supervisor, and got me in touch with CID, which is the Army's sort of federal law enforcement. They investigate these big crimes like felonies. They don't waste their time on DUIs. Handed over some more documentation regarding what I found and how specifically this stuff was incriminating. And I still have yet to receive any update.
Before we get to the new findings, consider what you just heard. Testimony from an Army veteran alleging to have observed high-ranking military officials trading child pornography over top-secret channels. This does not appear to be the first time this has happened to the Pentagon. In parts 1 and 2, I opted against providing arguments or giving too much of my opinion. This was a mistake, as it led to some confusion. So expect some light unpacking here and there. What you're about to see are some new findings regarding Pizzagate, which are disturbing, to say the least, but they're also eye-opening. If you still think Pizzagate is debunked, hopefully this video will challenge you. But first, an exploration of these pedophile networks and their apparent use of cryptography. This is an FBI bulletin, and it details symbols used by organized pedophiles. And it was published by WikiLeaks in 2007. There are some people who think this document is bogus. These people are wrong, because the pedophiles who created these symbols did so a decade before this FBI bulletin was leaked. The origins could be a bit further back, of course. But officially speaking, the quote, boy lover logo was copyrighted in 1997. Evidence for this can be found on boywiki.org, a group of pedophiles who refer to their most prominent symbol, this symbol, as a quote, spiringle. These symbols are also in a 2006 New York Times article, but in black and white. Some of these pedophiles have even created, quote, art to symbolize their evil deviancies. According to BoyWiki, modifications and variations of these symbols will be tolerated and indeed are encouraged. While this FBI bulletin has definitely helped researchers locate potential networks, it's also made a lot of people insane. And many have emailed me about this Actualized YouTube channel.
In this episode, I want to lay out the core principles of Actualized.org.
Asserting that he's a pedophile, or very likely a pedophile. The reason they give is because of his logo. It is pretty similar. I can certainly understand why many felt the need to send this to me. But here's the problem. If you see one of these pedophile symbols on a children's program, or a children's toy.
Secret language used by pedophiles, so how in the world did it end up on a souvenir toy?
Then of course that in and of itself is a problem, because it could potentially give people, pedophiles especially, the wrong idea. But in the case of Actualized.org, is there anything else we can point to, besides just the symbol, that warrants suspicion? Is his channel made for kids? Is he a convicted pedophile? Has anyone come forward alleging abuse? Is there anything? The answer is no. So if we cannot pair the symbol with something, then we effectively have nothing. We certainly don't have enough to constitute some kind of investigation, right? Someone sent me an image of JoJo Siwa, she's a famous YouTuber, with a painted heart on her face. They suggested maybe she was being groomed, because the girl lover symbol is also a heart, right? But these hearts don't look anything alike. With the exception of child lover, every one of these symbols emphasizes a spiral-like characteristic, none of which are present here. Okay, we have to be able to draw hearts, or see hearts, without equating them to sex trafficking. It also doesn't help that the little boy lover symbol, for instance, is a relatively common thing to draw, especially for children, but this was done by design. These pedophiles wanted the little boy lover logo to appear like a little boy's scrawl. In 2008, flyers were released in New Britain, Connecticut, warning neighbors that alleged pedophiles John Sperling and Jeff Brisson, aka the Night Raven and Astram, lived nearby and were dangerous.
This is the flyer that led New Britain police to 39-year-old John Sperling and 29-year-old Jeff Brisson. The two men were arrested back in January for the alleged sexual assault of a 14-year-old boy and a 3-month-old girl.
They determined that Mr. Brisson had sexually assaulted the 3-month-old, that infant that was on scene.
So who was it exactly that created this symbol?
Two men accused of committing horrific crimes and posting proof on the internet.
So just because this symbol is relatively common, it doesn't mean we throw our hands up and just give up. Voodoo Donuts, for instance. You almost couldn't make their logo look more like the Little Boy Lover logo if you tried. Of course, this doesn't prove anything nefarious, but we can at least pair the Voodoo Donuts symbol with testimony.
When I found out that the party I was brought to was the owner of Voodoo Donuts, this specific time it was Trace Shannon, the way that this party was described to me is that what's happening out front is this, and this is where people are doing drugs, and people are doing sexual shit in the back. Then I see kids being brought into the back. Then I'm asking, who are these kids? Who are their parents? And that immediately drew attention onto me.
Former Instagram user and self-proclaimed pedophile Cage openly shared his boy lover tattoos on the platform with the hashtags pedo, gay pedo, boy love triangle, boy love, and others. Now, how do you think Instagram responded when a user reported his account for hate speech or symbols? Well, apparently, pedophiles sharing their pedophile tattoos doesn't go against their community guidelines. And one of the accounts who liked this post belonged to a New York Times best-selling children's book author.
It won the 2004 Oppenheim Toy Portfolio Gold Award. It sold more than 2 million copies.
And the first video on this author's Twitter shows him giving a, quote, shout-out to a kindergarten.
Eat some macaroni and cheese, my favorite food, and I hope that you read and practice reading because it will make you feel really good.
But are there any other examples showing the apparent use of these pedophile codes? Well, you tell me.
Wow, something smells good! Yeah, let's go! Yum, 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 yum.
Okay, that looks like a spiral triangle. Typically a swirl like this would or should never raise red flags. But the fact that it's right next to a spiral triangle, and that they're both on a massive children's channel, I hope we can at least agree that if this is all a coincidence, then the creators should at least be informed on the similarities these symbols have with pedophile codes. But that's actually not all. In part 1, I briefly showed how the word yummy was being used by pedophiles in a sexual way toward children.
There are piping hot and yummy foods from around the world.
This could potentially be inspired by Justin Bieber's newest single. Leading up to his new album, Bieber posted several images of babies next to the hashtag yummy. Publicity stunt or otherwise, in the darker corners of the internet, the term yummy has donned a new and much more deviant association. That said, there is simply no real way for me to know the intentions of the creators of this video. But I guess that's the point, isn't it? Many people ask, why would pedophile networks risk exposing themselves by using these relatively well-known symbols? I would argue because it's a win-win. On one hand, you can signal to the relevant individuals or groups. And, unless you say, hey, look at me, I'm a pedophile, like Cage, then you actually have the benefit of plausible deniability.
They said,
were shocked. We had no idea. We reacted immediately. I think this story is being blown out of proportion, obviously, because I don't think this company knew that this was a sign of pedophilia.
So if we postulate that pedophile networks like to communicate together in public, cryptically, and I would argue that the existence of these symbols in the first place really does validate this notion. And if we combine that with the benefit of plausible deniability, then the question is not why would pedophile networks use these symbols, even to this day. The question is, why wouldn't they?
More than a dozen men, including Disney employees, are facing jail time after they're caught in an undercover sex bust. The men wanted to have sex with the underage boys and girls.
Disney workers among the 11 Bay Area men arrested and accused of keeping child pornography.
Transitioning from Disney to this was fucking easy. I don't know, getting molested for fucking from your 6 to your 14 seems like way harder circumstances.
Not talked about in the media at all. No. Epstein was, but this wasn't talked about at all. He's 73 years old and he was just sentenced to 7 years. It makes you wonder, all those years, his position at Disney, being the vice president, what else has he done? I had to dig for this story, and it's not on any mainstream media news outlet anywhere. It makes you wonder, all those years, his position at Disney, being the vice president, what else has he done?
This man, Brian Peck, worked at Nickelodeon. He was convicted of raping a child on the set. And a year later, he was hired by Disney to work on the show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Seriously, you should have some pizza later.
In 2012, he was hired by his longtime friend, Charlie Sheen, to work alongside him on the show Anger Management.
When we were growing up, it's no secret that producer's sleeping with this actress or that, or watch out for that guy, he likes little boys.
And according to Corey Feldman, both Brian and Charlie had a similar penchant for young boys.
He said Charlie Sheen raped him.
Shit, I've personally heard a story about Charlie and Corey Haim, probably, I don't know, at least a dozen people probably in my inner circle knew.
He told me Charlie bent me over in between two trailers and put Crisco oil on my butt and raped me. In broad daylight, anybody could have walked by, anybody could have seen it.
It's difficult for a sex offender to get a job at Walmart, much less Disney, much less around kids. But somehow, Brian Peck was able to get both. How was that possible?
I've loved horror movies since I was a kid.
Director Victor Salva served only a brief stint in jail for raping a young boy and even filming some of it. He has since enjoyed a lucrative career, hired multiple times by Disney to direct feature-length films.
We ordered a bunch of pizzas, and we let Sal do every weird thing he could think of to the guys who delivered them. we ordered a bunch of pizzas, and we let Sal do every weird thing he could think of to the guys who delivered them.
And everything I've ever known, I've ever loved, stranded.
It is not just a law enforcement problem, it is a societal problem, and we all need to work on it together.
Again, a symbol is not everything. But law enforcement is made aware of the symbology of all criminal enterprises, pedophiles included. Why did they do this? Plan International is an organization that, quote, supports thousands of children worldwide. The head of their Belgium division is Regina Deprabandere.
Mesdames et messieurs les parlementaires, monsieur le ministre, c'est un grand plaisir pour moi de vous rencontrer pour témoigner des réalités vécues par les filles dans ma communauté et dans mon pays. Je m'appelle Adeline Ouemou, j'ai 17 ans. Et je viens du Bénin, plus précisément de la Takora, au nord du pays. Je viens d'avoir mon bac et dans quelques jours, je vais entamer des études de droit à l'université. Je veux devenir magistrat.
I remember when I was in England, we were preparing some young English boys. They're from very... preparing them for First Communion.
Cardinal George Pell, Vatican treasurer, found guilty of child sex abuse, the most senior Vatican official ever convicted of child sex offences. He told the court Pell assaulted them after Mass, forced him to perform oral sex on him.
It's crucial to understand that historians have provided ample evidence showing the full extent of Catholic symbology. You can go on to the very end, and you'll never find a triangle that wraps around itself, right? So why is Pope Francis wearing it? Why was the symbol embroidered in that particular shade of blue? And of all days, why on International Youth Day? Maybe the Pope's symbol here really is just a misunderstanding. But if it's not, then we have to be prepared for what that would mean about the world we live in.
Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Go back to
Now, in order for this video to stay up, it's important that I don't reveal everyone's identity. Instead, I'll be showing first names or giving aliases, and placing black blocks or entirely blurring faces. To confirm that these findings are true, visit the YouTube channel Memory Hold. Let's begin with this man, who I'll refer to as Jim. Jim is a very powerful and influential person connected to the DC establishment. According to White House visitor files, he made 3 trips there in 2012. Hillary Clinton has written a personal thank you letter to Jim. He's one of the founders of the now infamous DC pizzeria, Comet Ping Pong. And among Jim's circle of friends, which are many, include former Democratic super lobbyist Tony Podesta. As I see it, Pizzagate is not about proving a sex ring. Pizzagate is about asking simple questions, like why does a Democratic super lobbyist, like Tony Podesta, have art like this? One of Tony's favorite pieces was Louise Bourgeois' The Arch of Hysteria, inspired by the contorted bodies of the female hysterics during Freud's psychoanalysis. And right next to it, as you can see here, Tony placed a cardboard cutout of his apparent Roman Catholic friend. According to Metro Weekly, Tony would hand out fresh pizza while his guests browsed his collections. As said before, the artists are not necessarily to blame here. It's the fact they're all collected by one person that's the most unsettling. In part 1, I showed this image from Instagram user Miss Summer. And as you can see here, Jim commented sex. The same user posted this picture of a little girl holding a watermelon, with the end of a tagline saying priceless. He said priceless isn't the word most people use upon tasting me. In part 1, I showed some disturbing rhetoric from the artist Majestic Ape, who has performed several times at Comet Ping Pong.
He likes the world sounds.
And little boys. And children.
I think that was his manager.
No.
We all have preferences.
This is a music video, which features Majestic Ape. Let's take a closer look at some of those images.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. The end. How did you like that one? Yes.
According to the New York Times, this person, Miss Summer, who we just mentioned, DJ'd for a DC event in the Adams Morgan neighborhood of Washington. Online magazine Brightest Young Things said the pageant actively discourages publicity. They went on to say that, quote, in the past, a media blackout was employed to protect the powerful lobbyists, congressional staffers, and occasional elected officials who donned dresses for the night.
This may be the best of all.
So this begs another simple question. Why is a man who talks about little girls tasting him partying with elected officials? Pizzagate is not a theory, or it shouldn't be a theory. It's simply an observation of bizarre, sexually deviant, and pedophilic behavior coming from a group closely associated with DC elites, or from the elites themselves. Now, what I'm about to show you is much worse than anything you've just seen. Credit for these findings goes to Memory Hold. In this image, uploaded by Jim, the user JBSmith614 is tagged. The same user is tagged here by an Instagram user named Geo. And here are some images from Geo. In this picture, he hashtags the word choke. He posted this image of a young child with their face pushed up against a window. Some kind of bathhouse filled with what is hopefully fake blood. Geo hashtags murder. Apparent satanic imagery in front of the Virgin Mary. Geo posted an image of a man wearing a thong next to a young child with the comment, visiting my little cousin. Here he's naked in what looks like some kind of eccentric sex party, potentially. Geo leaves a heart emoji to this image of a young girl. If we click on the image, it reveals that the girl is, quote, professional Instagrammer talent Sonia Mohava, who is 19 years old. But Geo posted this in 2016, so that would actually make Sonia around 15 when he uploaded this. Also, this image could have been taken even before 2016. So that means she could be 13 or 14 here. Think about that for a second. In the case of Geo, well, he was the fashion designer for the Puma Fenty boots worn here by Rihanna. So the same man who designs shoes for A-list celebrities posts videos like this, commenting, "Pederast dance in front of the church with little teens." Multiple images of dead cats. Geo also tags someone who, by the looks of it, owns a goat farm. an animal that Geo seems to really, really like. Geo uploads a movie trailer for a film called Blossom Valley. The film is about a couple who kidnap a newborn baby. Geo tagged a user we'll refer to as Beth. According to Beth's Instagram, her and Geo are or were a couple. She commented, "My pedo babe." A close-up of Geo's tie seems to support this notion. Here's Beth with a goat saying, "Fucking killed it, I don't give a damn, and I don't give a fuck." 2 kids pretending to be hanged. This image saying, "Last Christmas, I killed them all." A child don't know what bad is. Sacrifice Sunday. A cartoon depicting necrophilia. In a few instances, Beth looks to have incurred real black eyes, as if someone punched her. Here is a spider in her mouth. Another bigger spider, she comments, "My kid of relationship." Here she says, "My uncle loves Carla more than his wife." Fetish Easter ceremony last night. And here is her smiling in front of a sign that says serial killer. Striving for a piece of Lucifer? Sending nudes and eating shit and killing kids #me. Kissing a bull skull saying my daddies and my uncles. Here she comments meat diet. In this image, she hashtags EU Cannibal, which is apparently the name of one of her music projects. And this was one of Beth's stories. I have to say, that looks like real blood and real bruises, right? So this infant looks to have a genuinely black eye. So how did that happen? I ran this picture through an image search, and it pulled up nothing. So it's apparently not from a movie or anything of that nature. So there's that. In this post, uploaded by Jim, we see a user we'll refer to as Nil. Nil shared some work on her Facebook from an artist named Enrique, saying, quote, "These are great." And here are some of the images she thought were great. In this image, uploaded by Jim, we see a user named Kev, who posted this image. Notice the shirt Kev is wearing here. The exact same image is posted here, on an Instagram profile with a variant name, The Kev. The Kev posted an image of Macaulay Culkin. A user said, "Gross, puberty gross." A store called Happy Kids World. One user says, "I know how much you love kids." Another user, Itza, says, "Those damn kids were never happy." Itza uploaded this image, commenting, "Ideal boy." This picture was posted by Jim. Notice the user CB. CB uploaded a baby doll with what appears to be fake blood on it. An antique illustration of a boy tied up and about to be set on fire. A van with what looks to have no seats in the back. and sealed off windows. CB says, yes, it appears Arch has discovered there is money in human trafficking. And he also posted some art from Kara Walker. Here is similar work from Walker. So if you still think there's nothing to Pizzagate, then it's likely you believe that all of these suspicious patterns are just edgy jokes or attempts to provoke. So is this an example of human trafficking, quote, hiding in plain sight? Or are they just joking? Well, I don't know. And it's because of my uncertainty that I remain unconvinced that everyone here is just playing around. It's crucial to remember just who these people are associated with, some of whom I haven't even revealed yet. But first, this is Nora, whose family are close associates with Jim. She used to live in D.C. just down the street from Comet Ping Pong.
So I grew up in D.C., which in a neighborhood that was pretty much 80% CIA operatives. J. Edgar Hoover lived up the road. We had a Czechoslovakian safe house on the corner. And I thought I had remembered it sort of extremely, but I just saw an old friend of mine, and he was like, no. You know, our dad taught us how to make guns and make Molotov cocktails, and, you know, they would blow them up in embassy driveways for fun. And, you know, it was totally bizarre, but normal.
An apparent CIA neighborhood. Okay. Nora appears to also believe in time travel.
As you know, I'm really interested in time travel.
I'm reading Thomas Bearden now.
Okay.
Gravitobiology and scalar time energy.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
The person taking the video of Nora is former CIA spy Robert Steele.
I have been a spy. I'm out from undercover.
It's bizarre to hear someone as credentialed as he speak so definitively about the more obscure theories surrounding child sex trafficking.
Now that we've had Pizzagate, for example, which opened people's mind.
And by the way, the painting that you allowed us to use as the cover for Pedophilia and Empire is really rocking.
Steele wrote the foreword to the book Pedophilia and Empire, and Nora drew the cover. The book claims the world is run by, quote, planetary controllers who are blood-feasting pedophiles.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse. It's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. All of the child services agencies across the United States of America, they did not start out as organizations to prey on children, but they attract pedophiles. And ultimately, pedophiles end up rising in the ranks and controlling those organizations, so that an organization that initially started out in the service of children becomes an organization that is in fact hunting children.
While I'm skeptical of both Nora and Steele, a part of me is preserving judgment. In Nora's case, her art and self-expression is fundamentally different from nearly everyone else in this group.
And then forgiveness is the gateway.
To forgive is divine.
To forgive is divine. To forgive is to be free.
And her contribution to a book like Pedophilia and Empire, unless it's their attempt at disinformation, is an action I wouldn't expect from anyone else we've spoken about. Okay. Now it's time for the final thing. Now, I'm sure you remember Beth, right? Well, here she is on the Instagram profile of a man named Walt. So this guy, Walt, co-manages the Midland Fashion Agency with a woman named Rachel C. the images on Rachel's Instagram and from her apparent friends on her Tumblr continue this deviant theme. Again, Pizzagate is about asking simple questions. Like, why is Rachel under the arm of the 42nd President of the United States? But it gets even worse, because in 2017, the same Rachel, who was flying in private jets with Bill Clinton, promoted these two models, both of whom worked for another modeling agency called MC2. Now, who do you think donated large sums of money to MC2? Who got children trafficked to them from MC2? Unsealed New York federal court documents allege that the owner of MC2 modeling agency, Jean-Luc Brunel, trafficked 3 12-year-old girls to Jeffrey Epstein, and that the girls were taken from within MC2. So it's one thing to be an edgy provocateur, or to try and shock with satanic imagery. But when you're associated with the likes of Jeffrey Epstein, the quote, edgy defense starts to look just desperate and pathetic, frankly. Snopes claimed that the plane in this image likely belonged to either Ron Burkle or Canadian businessman Frank Giustra, who's flown with Clinton on numerous occasions. And Frank is the founding patron of the Boys Club Network, which emphasizes boy leadership and has only boy summer camps. Frank is also the founder of the Elpida Project, which is essentially a big building in Greece that houses refugees. And this is Elpida's logo. It used to have a symbol positioned just behind the letters. Now, what do you think their symbol was before they decided to change it? Might it have had something to do with Frank's apparent passion for boys? For many of us, 2020 is the year we see the world with a new pair of glasses. May they help us notice and confront malevolence and bring the innocent to the light of the world.
The military will talk about things like professionalism and standards, ethics, moral and legal judgment. And then to one day kind of stumble upon this really makes you reconsider a life choice, makes you consider your values. I think anyone that has an inkling of a doubt that someone is sexually abusing a kid wants to probably pound that person's face in. And that's the moment I was at. But when you're dealing with lieutenant colonels and above, or you're dealing with people who make way more money and have way more influence with high-ranking people than you do, you're also very afraid.